All right. Welcome to today's personality typing with Habib. This is episode number 28, I believe. And yeah, today we're going to be typing Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, who is running for the Michigan seat for the U.S. Senate, the national position. Um, and yeah, so today is July 18th. And yeah, as usual, the disclaimer is that no type accuracy guarantees. And yeah, today's going to be a good one because I feel pretty good about the type as usual, I guess, but no guarantees. You know, I might make a mistake here and there, but for the most part, I got a lot of videos lined up for today, so I'm very excited about this one. And yeah, it's a light episode, so yeah, well, I'll get into that later. But yeah, the previous episode was a dark episode on Jeffrey Epstein, who is a dark character who has a lot of negative attributes. But there's so much to go into there if I were to talk about that. But Abdul El-Sayed is a good person, at least from what I can see. I don't know, whatever. You can only say so much, right? But today we're going to be going over the clips as usual and the final guess at the end. So you can always skip past if you are not curious about the evidence and all that. But I think I try to make it interesting. I try to cover some good clips and see what's going on. It's more than just type. I talk about things not only about character and building good character, but what to pay attention to in this world. It's not just about psychology and things, right, which is a part of it, but we use psychology as a lens to view character and behavior and choices that we're making. And at the end, I'm going to go over the next episode preview, who it's going to be. So without further ado, let's get started. Previously on personality typing, we had Jeffrey Epstein, who I typed as an ISTP, double masculine TISE, consume, play, sleep, blast, last, social type number 4. I'm not changing this for now. There was some very good discussion in the comments about him possibly being a social one. Now, I understand that, but even in these more, let's say, like upper class or high class circles, you need people who are friendly, who can be not awkward. And I feel like from my typing and from what I can see with Epstein is that Jeffrey was one of these types of guys who was just happy to be there in a way and kind of played that social for role that was very much needed in those circles. Like he was the person who connected this person and that tribe motivated thing. Just because it's like, oh, flex last doesn't mean you could do bad things. It's like, no, that's not true. You have that, and it comes out in very immature ways, like rape in this case, or sexual assault and things like that. Pedophilia and whatnot. But anyway, that was the dark episode, and today is going to be a more of a light episode in terms of covering someone who is tackling these dark characters and tackling these dark forces in this world. So, yep, we typed Jeffrey Epstein, and you can check out that video if you want. As a previous episode, and then today we're talking about Dr. Abdul El-Sayed. And yeah, my first impression of him is that he might be some kind of EFJ. So a lot of the EJs, sometimes, in this case, he is a little bit on the shorter side as a guy, but he's yeah, he knows what he's talking about in a number of issues. And yeah, I think he was like the football captain, lacrosse captain, something like this. Like he was very into sports, which is, I understand that. I know people like this. And yeah, he just reminded me of a bunch of other lead FE people in general. But yeah, with like masculine sensing. So those people include Joe DeSena, who did the Spartan race, Dr. Mike, who's on YouTube. And Dr. Abdul El-Sayed is very much into public health. So it's more like the EJ version of being a doctor. And then you got Mel Gibson, who I don't know what picture to get for him. So I just got this funny one with another EJ behind him, Joe Rogan, right? But Chael Sonnen is in there. And I also put in Hugh Jackman because I'm getting this feeling of SF. While Abdul may be FE, he may be in the Alpha Quadra with FESI or FENE or something. what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of SF that Abdul El-Sayed has. He's like trying to make things cool. He's, but without making it look like he's trying, like it's the way that SF people actually are cool. They don't try to be cool. They just are. And they're doing a bunch of behaviors that make things more palatable in reality. Like if you're near SF people, you know what I'm talking about. They just make things flow. And it's like, hey, why am I not like that? And it's, yeah, these people, they know how to human. They know how to be the more animalistic side. And I put Wolverine in here because, yeah, I feel like Abdul El-Sayed could probably play Wolverine in a way. Because I think Wolverine's supposed to actually be short, but Hugh Jackman's tall. But anyway, these are the people he reminds me of. I could be wrong, but that's as far as my first impression goes. And as is usually the case, is like my final guess ends up being somewhat around there. Maybe not always on point, but pretty much around there. So I have 10 videos today, and it's because I think this guy really is a blaster and OI that he's able to put out these short, bite-sized content. So we're going to have some short clips today. So yeah, we're going to have a lot of nice things to look at. And the first one is just his announcement to run his campaign. And so he was starting to run for Senate last year or something like that. And he put together really good videos. And so we're going to show a couple of them, and they're pretty heartwarming. Well, depends how you feel. But yeah, let's see it.
An all-American story. Public schools, high school football captain, scooped ice cream, loved his Camaro, lacrosse at U of M, an academic scholarship to med school, Michigan values, and a life of service to Michigan. His name? Abdul El-Sayed.
I know. It's a name built for American politics. My name is Abdul El-Sayed. I'm running for U.S. Senate because in the state that built the American dream, it shouldn't be this hard just to get by.
To pay our bills, or afford our groceries, or see our doctors, or get our politicians in D.C. to give a damn about us.
Michigan made my dreams possible. I grew up all-American here, became a doctor to help people, and spent my career making government deliver for us. I took on politicians and rebuilt Detroit's health department, got glasses for thousands of kids, helped young moms, and took on corporate polluters and led in our schools. Then I ran the state's largest health department, where we built big things, model programs for veteran services and to protect our kids.
Dr. El-Sayed named Public Official of the Year.
Cancels medical debt for thousands of Michiganders.
And yeah, I'm a bro with a podcast.
To dig into the epidemics America's facing.
Of economic and health insecurity and the political system that holds us back. Here in Michigan, anything should be possible.
We need a little bit more of that Michigan grit and values in Washington. We've got to fight back hard against Trump and Musk with a hell of a lot more than paper paddles and broken promises. They're not the disease, they're just the worst symptom. The disease is the corruption of our politics by billionaires and corporations.
While the workers who built this country are forgotten.
They've left us with trade deals that have rotted out our towns and robbed our children of their dreams. Students are being snatched off the streets while our democracy crumbles.
And the politicians don't do anything. That's what's un-American. Here in Michigan, we build.
So let's build a bold vision of a government that works for all of us, for healthcare, housing, an economy that includes all of us.
My name might be different, but our fight is one and the same. And it's as American as it gets. I'm Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, and I'm running for U.S. Senate. Let's go.
Cool. Yeah. And he does have an MD. So I believe it's from Columbia University or something like that. But he also went to University of Michigan. And yeah, so that was great. He's able to talk about himself. I can barely do that. I have blast last. And so when I see him put together his message, talk about himself, talk about what's going on, the story, he's really able to put together a message and all this. So it's really good to see him kind of go through the details of things. And it reminds me a little bit of Zoran Mamdani, where, Zoran was able to blast certain things. And, but when it comes to Abdul, he's able to get specific and share the details of where he comes from, and you can kind of see the trail of people supporting him along the way and things that he's been involved in and things that he's been able to do for people. And in this second clip, so we're going to start getting into the typing. As you know, I already have that bias going in of that he has extroverted feeling, but we're going to see so much of it, possibly, maybe, we'll see, that it'll be hard to deny eventually. But for now, in this clip, it's about, a college kid going all the way from New Jersey to Michigan just to go see. This kid is 19 years old, and he's going to go see Abdul El-Sayed, and he's very excited about politics, where most people are tuned out. But why is this campaign exciting? What is the question that this kid has for Abdul, and how does that go? Let's check it out.
How you doing? My name is James.
Hey, James.
I'm from the great state of New Jersey, so I flew all the way out here to ask you this question. I'm very excited.
Wait a second. Now there's the whole story. So what brings you to Michigan?
I'm a student out in DC, and I'm excited to meet you. I have friends out here, and I'm just really passionate about this campaign. So
wait. You came all the way here to be a part of this campaign?
To meet you in person. I've seen you on social media so much.
Can we give a round of applause? James, thanks so much. James, it is wonderful to meet you. I'm so grateful that you're a part of this. All right, what can I help with?
So I have a really important question. So I'm as I mentioned, a student. I'm a young person, so I'm trying to get more involved in politics. And a lot of young people are feeling the cynicism. It seems like the system is not really working for the average Joe. It's not working, and it's really plaguing our average voter. And I know I'm very excited, and I'm so glad that you are standing up against corporate PAC money and overturning Citizens United. But it feels like the Senate, the Supreme Court, the House, it's quite corrupt. So I'm curious, what systemic change will you fight for, and what will you do to change the system?
You're probably 20-something, early 20-something? 19. This world is yours for the making, man. There are a lot of folks your age who wouldn't be caught dead at a political rally. And I understand the nihilism. You just got to understand, for those of you who are older than James, if you're 19 years old, that means you were born in 2007? That was the year I graduated college. Thank you for making me feel instantly way older. But that means that you were born in a time when the iPhone was ubiquitous, when high-speed internet was everywhere. You were a year old when you or your family or a neighbor lost their home in the worst financial catastrophe in modern history. You were born into 2 wars. You watched Donald Trump descend that escalator when you were, 7? And he's been a fixture in our political reality since your childhood. And meanwhile, huge internet companies have figured out how to harvest your attention through your eyeballs and your eardrums your whole life. And your social experiences are halfway transacted through a screen because that's how they wanted it to be, because at least then they could serve you ads for shit you probably didn't need to buy. So to not be nihilistic is an act of hope. And I appreciate you doing that. But I also think there's some reality that we all have to check in ourselves, which is when you talk down to young people or you tell them what they really ought to do, when they don't see answers to the big questions they're asking in a movement, do not be surprised when they don't become part of that movement. It's just rational behavior. And to your point, when there's so much to be nihilistic about, a few tweaks around the edges aren't going to cut it because the whole system feels broken. So there's a reason that my message isn't Medicare for all, money in your pocket, money out of politics. There's a reason I say money out of politics first. Because the central corrupting feature of our politics right now is the power of money to buy politicians so that government is captured by them, not for us.
Cool. Yeah. So that was really good to get that message across and kind of channel the energy of the young people who see the problems. And he's able to diagnose it. I was just talking to someone who I suspect, someone in the community who I suspect might be a feeler. And I'm just saying how the men who are feeling overthinking, like possibly Abdul El-Sayed here, he's able to diagnose the problem and talk about the pain of what this kid is going through, what people in general are going through, and they're diagnosing the problem. And he's saying, hey, this is a priority structure. Why is my campaign slogan of money out of politics first in that order? Why am I saying that one first compared to the other two parts, which is money in your pocket and Medicare for all. So you can't get to Medicare for all until you get money out of politics, or at least that's what he's saying in terms of the prioritization order. And that's what feelers are able to do. And that's what I see Abdul possibly doing here. But yeah, let's keep going and see the next clip where, you know, I made a bold claim saying that this guy is possibly a blaster. So let's see. What's your understanding of blast and storytelling? And do you think that Abdul El-Sayed is able to tell a story? He's going to talk about some bridges in Michigan. So he's running in the state of Michigan, right? So he's going to talk about, you know, these local stories and some corruption that's going on.
Gather round, children, for the tale of two bridges. A sordid tale of collusion, of corruption. The first bridge, the Gordie Howe Bridge. The second, the Ambassador Bridge, the largest privately owned bridge in America, owned by the Maroon family, known for their slimy business practices and tactics. As the opening of the Gordie Howe Bridge came to pass, the Maroons realized that they could not let this happen. Should this other bridge, another opportunity, open, it would mean that the Maroons would go from making billions and billions of dollars to making just billions of dollars. And of course, they could not let that happen. So what did they do? They called their benefactor, one Donald Trump, a would-be king, holding office in a White House with now a very large ballroom, apparently. So what did the wannabe King Trump do? He did what any wannabe king would do. He used his power to complete the circle of corruption, to protect his benefactors and their billions of billions. He stopped the Gordie Howe Bridge from opening. So what is the lesson to be learned from this, children? That we need to get money out of politics, put money back in your pocket, and pass Medicare for all.
All right. So let's see. Basically, was that good storytelling? Yes, I think so. Was it NI storytelling or SI storytelling? So, you know, this Gordie Howe Bridge, I had to go look it up and things like this. And yeah, it's actually scheduled to open apparently this month, but we'll see. And it's very much true what he's saying. He's calling things out and all that. And so, yeah, he's FE shaming people, you know, possibly. But the point of this clip, at least for me showing it, is to show the blast aspect, that he's able to tell a story about something and it is contained as if it is a chapter in a book. You know, he's able to do that quite well. Whereas, you know, for me, you know, it's not really even a comparison to talk about someone like me who has the blast and I just have all these unorganized details generally that's not organized in like a nice, neat chapter of a story. But yeah, so the clip number 4, this one is just, we're just continuing on here. So we're seeing blast, right? You know, allegedly, right? And so we're actually already starting to see that he might actually have this ESFJ type, you know? And, you know, he's probably friends over flex, social type, if you know what that is. So he's either a 2 or a 4. I don't know. But yeah, we could already be seeing this. But in this specific clip, it's a special clip. You know, I thought about whether or not to include it because it has his daughter in it. But I decided to include it because it's, you know, he has it. You know, he's a public figure at this point, and I think he does it in a nice way. And there's a good lesson in here. And you could see the difference between someone like myself who is gathering and just throwing more details, where this guy is talking more about control and more about the narrow down and focus on what you can control rather than looking outside at factors and situations that are way outside of your control. So anyway, this is a rock climbing clip with his daughter. Let's check it out.
I'm still scared of heights though.
When I was a kid, I had like super panic response as well. Like I'd get scared, and then all of a sudden, it would overwhelm me. Hi guys, you good, Emily?
Can you use up from the other side?
And so it's like training her to be able to be like, okay, so what do you know? What can you control? And then just focus on those things.
That one is hard to grab on too.
You got it. There you go. Just you growing up, at some point, you start to just sort of confront the things that you make it part of your personality to confront the things that scare you on purpose. See that sign? It says, "Did you clip in?"
I'll go all the way up
I want
to
you
there.
to touch that sign.
Okay, I will touch that and then I'll come back down.
That's fine. Come back down.
Okay.
As a sense of like, I'm going to conquer this thing's control over me. You're almost there, buddy. Like, it's not even that high. You're almost there.
I know it's not high.
You set your goal and you're going to go get it. Because that's the thing that anxiety does to you, right? It's like it controls what you do now out of fear of future pain. So you're like, no, actually, I'm going to deal with this. And I am going to make it part of myself to learn how to confront that so that it can't control me. Yes! 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 Woo! Good job. Good job.
I'm not going again.
It's okay. You did it. You accomplished your goal. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, so I think it's good that he's, able to talk to his daughter in a way where he's just setting up small goals or small things, or just saying like, hey, focus on what you can control, focus on conquering the fear you have that's in front of you, and conquer it, because then you get your control back. That's for all of us EPs out there, we have issues around control. Maybe even someone like me dealing with things that are way outside of control, and you want to start, clawing back some control by getting some kind of win. There's the idea of small wins, and you could see it so clearly here, which is great OI. In this case, I think it's SI, but NI can do this as well. But anyway, that was heartwarming. Now we're starting to get into people talking about his election and certain questions that he has. He's going to talk a little bit about Donald Trump and Netanyahu, who I typed Netanyahu as having introverted thinking. So you got these basically the selfish archetypes, right? The people who are mainly looking out for themselves. At least what I mean by that isn't that their type is selfish. It's that their type is somewhat that way, but then they're doubling, tripling down on, the self-centeredness, that's not, all of the people of those types are not going to really be that selfish, but these individuals are choosing to be that way. And how does Abdul talk about it? If he has FE, we'll see him kind of shame that behavior. He's going to, and if he's a decider, then he's going to do it in a very people-focused way rather than making it more about the system, So let's check out this question from Brian Allen here to Abdul.
Would have issues, and he would come to his team and he would present these issues, and he would tell you to go figure out how to fix it. And you would come back to him and list 10, 15, 20 different laws preventing you from getting to the solution that he desired. And his response was, your job is not to tell me how it can't happen. Your job is to tell me how we're going to get it done. So he does not understand the idea of consent, or the idea of, when no means no, and he can't do stuff.
Well, he doesn't understand that in any circumstance. The reality of this is that the man is the essential endpoint of narcissism. And it's not lost on me that he has now become bloodthirsty after excesses of wealth and power, because he needs to feel his own power to feel anything. And at some point, you end up doing heinous things if that's how you're built. And, when Netanyahu, I was really thinking about this. Netanyahu was in the Situation Room. Can you imagine a leader of any other country being in the American Situation Room?
Yeah.
That's insane. And then, that day he's like, all right, sounds like a good plan to me. And we're like, why is it that for 40 years, everybody's gotten the same presentation, not in the Situation Room? And for 40 years, every other president said no. It's because what Netanyahu did. He just played to his ego.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have no actual cognitive ability, but you got a huge ass ego, and somebody plays to your ego, then you're going to do the stupid shit they tell you to do. And that's our president right now. And we got to deal with it for another 3 years.
If the Democrats dominate in November, that was a huge possibility that we will still have to deal with him, but not to the capacity that he's.
I mean, maybe, just maybe, we might finally vote to convict him on one of the many, many things he's done wrong. I mean,
Okay, yeah, I think that's good enough for now in terms of, you could kind of hear the EJ side, yeah, if you want to say Karen and all this, you can say that. If you want to say Trump derangement syndrome, there are people who like to talk about that. Sure, but like you're having a foreign leader in the Situation Room. That's a pretty effy inappropriate thing, right? And some lines were basically crossed, and our sovereignty is in question in that regard because people are already having the narrative that, hey, Israel has a little bit too much influence, and then you have this kind of thing happen, then it's just evidence piling up all the way to the moon and back again. So anyway, moving on, because we're just focused on the typing here. Now we're, you can see the decider issue here, right? Like, these issues they heat up, especially around talking about specific people. And in this case, he's going to be talking about JD Vance and making some crazy claims in terms of like, hey, like, your wife should leave you, stuff like that. Stuff like that. It gets pretty decidery. I mean, it's super entertaining in my opinion.
Zero charisma.
Yeah.
Like, none.
He's talking about JD Vance here. Okay.
Right. And like, can you imagine, like, he's got brown kids. At some point, he's going to have a really awkward conversation with kids. It'll be like, like you made your career hating people who are different.
And people that look like his kids.
Yeah.
Saying, there was a video of him saying that it's completely okay for you to not want your neighbor to not speak English. So I'm thinking, I saw a photo of him at Thanksgiving. They're speaking Hindi.
His kids' grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how you have that conversation with them?
Yeah.
I'm like, part of me is just like, bro, your whole political philosophy is incoherent.
Yeah.
Like, and you're smart enough to know it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. JD Vance is not a dumbass.
Yeah.
JD Vance
he graduated from Yale, no?
He graduated from Yale Law. He's a smart guy. Mm-hmm. The thing about it is he's like soul corrupt. So like you got Donald Trump, who's just an ego with no brain. Then you've got a brain like with this like soul corruption for power.
Right.
And I don't know what's worse. Part of me is like, it must suck to live inside your head to know that your entire politics is incoherent with the way you live your life.
Wow.
How do you deal with that every day? Like, there's a cognitive dissonance that comes out and like maybe it just sucks out his charisma. I don't know.
Like huge cognitive dissonance. Just absolutely.
He's got to look at his kids and be like, yeah, those are brown kids. They're mine. You know what I mean? And I had brown kids. I have brown kids. I love my brown kids. And I think my brown kids are just as American as everyone else. JD Vance has brown kids who thinks he thinks are less American than everyone else. Like, that's wild to look at your own kids and be like, you don't actually belong as much in this country that I brought you into.
Yeah, that's so sad.
How do you like? Part of me is just like, bro, like, it must break you every time you like hug your own kids. Like, I'm so sorry.
One of these days, we're going to see the kids that are going to grow up and we're going to hear from them. We're going to hear their story.
We are. And you know, the funny thing about it is JD Vance is his kids are probably going to grow up and like do everything they can to undo his politics. I mean, and I hope they will, right? Honestly, because they'll be more coherent than he will.
True. I mean, that is true.
And honestly, like JD Vance's kids, I love you. Like Usha, like get out. Okay. Still got time.
Vance, if I know you're going to see this, do not sue me. All right. I didn't know he was going to talk about you like this. I had no idea.
At the end of the day, like, I'm just trying to tell everybody what's probably going on in your head. Like, you can come out and say, I'm sure you probably have JD Vance here if he wants to come on the show. He can come to you and he can explain what he's feeling when he looks at his brown kids
and
about how he's going to explain to them why his entire political philosophy is inconsistent with their existence.
Wow.
So, come on over here, JD. It's a nice, comfortable chair. Lovely guy. They treat you super well here. But the people want to know.
People want to know. One more question and I'll let you know.
Yep. The people want to know. You can't have an incoherent philosophy like that. This is the problem with NT, is that you look at the SF and the NT's not NTing. It doesn't really line up with the SF reality, which is what he's saying. He's like, your kids are brown. And you're basically saying you can't have people speaking other languages as your neighbor. It's like your own family. Anyway, so the SF calling out, the NT aspect of JD Vance, who is SF, but he has, he's just operating from that psychopathic element of his NT, which NT does not have to be psychopathic, but it can often be weaponized in that way, sometimes in politics, sometimes with people like Peter Thiel, anyway. So, you can use NT for good, but this dude is basically putting out philosophy, putting out politics, and putting out different messages that wouldn't even be safe for his own direct family, his own direct children. And so I do believe that this is good. The point of why I have Abdul El-Sayed in the light class rather than the dark class is because calling out darkness, calling out evil and inconsistency is part of being good. It's the burden of doing good work, doing good deeds, doing, something ethical, doing something whole, rather than being disconnected where your own life in your own house doesn't make sense, like JD Vance, Anyway, yeah, decider talk. He's pulling me in, you see? But, I, observer, have to go on with this video because I care more about the video than I do of the people in the sense of the observer versus decider thing. But anyway, let's see if in this video we can still see some more FE and SF. This video was, it's not necessarily like a friendly interview. This is someone, and it's not friendly, but it's, someone who's actually trying to do some journalism, right? And so in this clip, they're going to be talking about some comparisons between him and Obama and Zoran Mamdani. They're like, hey, Abdul, you kind of remind me of these other people, or at least people are saying that. This person doesn't agree with it, but anyway, which is a good thing. But anyway, let's see.
Then folks were comparing you to Barack Obama. This time around, people are talking about you as the Michigan Mamdani. Do you get sick of these comparisons?
I am who I am. I'm not Barack Obama. I'm not Zoran Mamdani. I'm Abdul. I was born and raised in the state of Michigan. I was raised by my immigrant father who immigrated to this country to build cars from Egypt. And my stepmom, Jackie, who's the daughter of the American Revolution. I am as Michigan as it gets. I went to the University of Michigan. I have made my life here. I'm raising my daughters here. I love this state. And I want Michiganders to know why I love this place, what I want to fight for, and how I want to take Michigan values to DC to fight for them. So, the comparisons are going to keep coming. I guess that's on you to make, but
well, I disagree with that comparison because I think stylistically you're different. I think, I was watching the documentary that was made about your gubernatorial run back in 2018. And I kind of think you have more edge than Mamdani or Obama. There's a scene where you talk about being sick of people kind of counting you out.
Yeah, and this is a pretty good clip, so check it out. It's pretty raw. I mean, it's pretty SF, but see what you can tell from this.
Believe that you're never good enough. And the reason you're never good enough is because the world never lets you be good enough when you look like me. There's a moment where I think every person of color has that. You're like, they'll never accept you. And at some point you're like, well, then fuck them, right? I'm gonna figure out how to get in there. And when I do, it's either gonna be because I blasted the door down, broke it down, I got myself in there. But when I do, right, we're gonna make sure that we open up for everybody else.
I just cannot imagine Mamdani or Obama letting a camera capture them say that. They are smiling all the time. Fair?
Look, I was the captain of my high school football, wrestling, and lacrosse teams. I'm the kind of person who, look, I bullied bullies my whole life. My name is Abdul. I started kindergarten in a place where there were no other Abduls. And for most of my life, I've been the only Abdul in a room. And my whole approach is this. I want us to come together to build together what we need and deserve together. But if you're going to bully other people in the room or try to bully me, I'm going to hit you right back twice as hard. That's just how I work. And I think Democrats need a little bit more of that. We talk about fighting, but most Democrats don't know what a fight looks like.
I mean, your deputy campaign.
Yep, that was good. That was really good SF. And we kind of need that, as far as, and this is the real masculinity, not the fake masculinity that you'll see online and you'll see with people like, Trump, JD Vance, Peter Thiel. Those are not men. Elon Musk is not really a man, but Abdul El-Sayed is what a man is supposed to be. At least not him alone, but him and people like that. It's about protecting. I have a kid myself. And if you are a man with a kid and you know how to protect that child, then that is the masculinity that we need. And so bullying bullies is the thing that is needed. And that's what Abdul El-Sayed is able to do. And he's got the SF to back it up. And in this clip, I thought it was a good contextual clip in terms of reflection on previous race. I'm also trying to figure out where his sleep is. And if he is an ESFJ, he has a lot of functions that aren't mine, as in, completely opposite stack or opposite functions. So I thought it'd be pretty interesting to see. He previously ran for governor of Michigan, and he lost to Gretchen Whitmer. But, he was much younger then, and he learned some things from it. Let's check it out.
Back in 2018, you ran for governor. It didn't work out. AOC campaigned with you. What did you learn from that loss? Can you tell me? Because it seemed like it stung. You fought really hard and people pushed back really hard against you. There was a moment in that race where questions were raised about could you even run, because you'd been in New York for a little bit and you had to have residency in Michigan for 4 years. So what did you learn from that loss?
Honestly, it's not about me. It really is about the people that I want to serve. And I think in a lot of ways, it was my first time running for office. I was 32, never run for office before, right? I had bad advice from a former president who told me I should run for office at my college graduation. And
Bill Clinton.
I said, I'll go big or go home. I went big and then I went home. But in a lot of ways, I think I missed the point in that race.
What do you mean?
Because I wanted everybody to agree with me on the critique. Right. And at the end of the day, I don't need everybody to agree with me on the critique. I need them to agree with me on the solution. And then I took it really personally as like a referendum on me and my work. And it's not. Your job, this is why I keep going back to this point. I'm not running against anybody. I'm running for the people of the state of Michigan. And my job every day is to build a stronger, deeper relationship where they know who I am, warts and all. And there's going to be people who say, I know who he is and I don't like him. That's okay. But I want the folks to know who I am and what I'm going to fight for. And every day I serve in the U.S. Senate, they're like, yeah, this is what Abdul said he was going to fight for. This is what Abdul is fighting for. And this is what Abdul's winning. And I know what I get with him. And so that's, I think, the biggest learning. The other thing that's changed is I had kids.
Yeah, your wife was pregnant during the campaign, right?
She was. We gave birth to our first, she gave birth to our first kid on the campaign trail. And it was a real moment for me. I'll be honest, there's something about the moment that your kid comes to your bed in the middle of the night and they're kicking you in the face, everything. Then they soil your bed. And then you have to wake up, clean them, clean your bed, clean yourself. And the whole time, all you're worried about is, how are you doing? Are you okay? Are you going to get back to sleep? And I think it's a really important metaphor because it teaches you a level of patience with things. At the end of the day, that's a deeply unfair situation. Somebody comes to your bed, soils your bed, and you're trying to clean them up and make them happy. But
they're still your kid.
They're still your kid and you love them and you want them to feel okay about the whole thing. And similarly, as a public servant, your job is always to serve the public. And
Yep. Anyway, good lesson there, but I want to keep it moving here. I have one last clip from this interview that I thought was really good in terms of just a lesson, and I'm trying to take these things from, whenever I'm doing typings of good people, who are worth learning a thing or two from. You can learn things from anyone really, but I think here he does some really good, not real double deciding, but he's using his extroverted feeling in a way that it's just overcoming the darkness, right? And let's check it out and then talk about it.
Out of an unqualified love of somebody, right? You love your kids unqualifiedly. It doesn't matter what they do. You will always love them and try to comfort them and try to give them the best that they deserve. And I think as a public servant, you have to commit yourself to an unqualified kind of unconditional love for the people you serve, where you're constantly focused on them, regardless of what some folks who you serve are going to say about you. There are going to be people.
It's a bit of martyrdom. Okay. So the EJ can be a bit of a martyr, and yeah, you could say negative things about it. You could say Karen, you could say this thing, but in its heroic form, the EJ is doing a lot of good, really fighting for people. Anyway, so that's what's in this clip. Let's check it out.
Michigan already are, who hate my guts. And it has nothing to do with anything I said or did. It has everything to do with my background and what I mean about what this country is. And you know what I want them to say after 6 years of my service? I want them to be like, man, that guy was the best senator Michigan ever could have. I still hate him. But you know what? When I called his office, they answered back. They gave me real answers. And when I needed something, they were there for me. That's what public service is. And I just think that, I think the first time I ran, I didn't understand that so clearly because I hadn't had that manifested in my life. And, this time around, I'm just a lot more focused on how do I serve you? Because life has gotten so frustrating. Life has gotten so unaffordable. You look at everybody who's trying to walk in here and tell you that they should earn your vote, and you feel like all of the rest of you have always lied to me. I'm just trying to be that one who says, look, at the end of the day, I want you to know I'm always going to listen, and I'm always going to try my best to forge pain out of the, or purpose out of the pain that we have. And I understand your pain. I get it 100% why you feel this way.
Yep. So that's the lesson here, where it's like, even if you hate me, I'm still going to do the right work to move things forward and to provide solution and to provide the help you need. That's what he's saying as a political candidate, but that's also what people are like when they're in the alpha state. When you're doing really well as a person, it doesn't matter if other people are evil or twisted or misunderstand you. It doesn't matter, because you're always just going to be showing up in a good and positive way, no matter the energy you're getting. It's irrespective of the negativity around you. You're not even looking at that. You are trying to be the problem solver. And that's what frequency Abdul El-Sayed is on, or trying to be on. And yeah, so, and you don't see that with that many people. You know, that's a very rare thing. And that's why I'm doing a video about this dude. And so video number 7 is going to be a little bit with Mehdi Hasan. Mehdi Hasan, I typed him as double masculine SETI, consume, play, blast, sleep, blast. So he's very like well-versed in a lot of things. He knows a lot. He's info dominant. So how is Abdul going to do? Actually, someone else commented on this interview and said that El-Sayed got grilled. So even though they might resonate with each other politically and agree, Mehdi Hasan as a double masculine is a type to be even more mean to the people he likes. And in this case, yeah, it definitely was the case. And yeah, let's check it out, because I think, you know, you want to get hard questions and see how people are doing with tough questions. And is Abdul El-Sayed, is he able to get the infodom side of himself to show up? Or
Healthcare. You can't look at my record and say that man hasn't defined his career by trying to show up in the places and in the circumstances where people are not getting the services they want. So I'm confident about who I am. I've done the work of showing Michiganders. Now it's time to remind folks who Mike Rogers is.
Before we get to Mike Rogers, you have to win the primary. Let's talk about Mallory McMorrow, who just had one of the biggest political collapses of any election cycle. Just 3 months ago, Zeteo, we here at Zeteo, did a poll with Data for Progress, which found that she was tied with you at 22%. Haley Stevens was leading at 23%. Since then, she's been in third place pretty consistently in most of the polls. She was even at 6% in one of them recently, which she's disputed the validity of. Do you think her downfall was her attacking you for campaigning with Hasan Piker, comparing him to Nick Fuentes? Because that's kind of around the time that she started falling in the polls.
You know, I'm a lot more focused on my campaign. I'll leave the polling and the poll interpretations to you all. But I'll say this: in traveling up and down Michigan, we've been talking to a lot of the same voters, and what they keep saying is, "I want someone I know is going to show up and fight." Now, if you can't identify what you're going to fight for, but you're just going to fight, at some point the question is, why are you even doing this in the first place? And we've been very clear about our goals and our principles in this campaign from the time we kicked it off back in April. And so when they're watching over the length of a campaign, and a campaign can't quite decide where it's going to be, what that says to people is that you're actually not here for me, you're here for you. And I think that it's important for anybody who wants to run for office to remember that you're building a relationship with the people you want to serve. We tend to center the parties, we tend to center the politicians in rooms like this, but we miss the opportunity to center the public. And our campaign has been about centering the people of the state of Michigan from the very beginning, what they need and want, and being able to demonstrate that I am only going to come to this city here in DC to fight for them and do their bidding, not because I'm interested in my positionality. So,
all right, yeah. So it seems like maybe he does get a passing grade in infodom. I'm not exactly sure yet, but he did get some. You know, he was able to have an answer there, but he is kind of I did see Blast more than anything, where he's trying to control the narrative and stuff, right? And we need to be able to do this. But I do think the next clip is worth something in terms of typing, because he does kind of distinguish a certain thing in the SI and NE, And I think it's important for all Americans to really, or all people in general, to understand this point, not get it twisted, not get it mixed up. And I think, who better than a double observer, possibly, to distinguish these terms. I believe it's going to be about like conflating Judaism with Israel and back and forth, with that. But really, they're not meant to be conflated. People do it anyway. So let's hear his explanation. And is it following the SINE protocol of how you would dissect those and kind of explain that?
Senate,
absolutely.
Which says $3 billion.
I'd be hoping to sponsor it in the Senate.
After a bunch of Zoran Mamdani-backed, AIPAC opposed candidates won big in New York, we heard from a lot of voices on the liberal side who are pro-Israel, people like the columnist and former State Department speechwriter Michael A. Cohen, who said, quote, "This is a genuinely scary time for Jews," even though Brad Lander was one of the people who won in New York, a Jewish future member of Congress. You've been painted as anti-Semite, especially after you campaigned with Hasan Piker. What's your response when people, this is the go-to move, as you know. What's your response to it?
I love and revere Judaism and the Jewish people. I always have. I was really blessed to grow up in a community with a large Jewish community. I went to shul, I went to seders, I was invited to bar and bat mitzvahs, which I attended and enjoyed. I'm grateful to have learned about Judaism, learned about the incredible contributions of the Jewish diaspora in America to American life, American culture, world culture. Judaism and the Jewish people are not the same as Israel and AIPAC. Any attempt to try to use the word anti-Semitism to prevent us from having serious disagreements with a country that has done a genocide, I think does a disservice to the idea of anti-Semitism and is frankly dangerous. And I think we need to differentiate between the two. Now, there are a lot of folks who want to stretch that idea of anti-Semitism, but as I've said, I aim to be one of the principal opponents to the things that the Egyptian government does from the US Senate. Why? Because they are a recipient of our taxpayer dollars.
And you are an Egyptian American.
And I'm an Egyptian American. And that has nothing to do with me being Egyptian. Now, the idea that somebody would take the actions of the Egyptian government and hold me accountable for it because I happen to share the same ethnicity as the people in Egypt, I find distasteful and wrong.
Just to be devil's advocate, and it's a good phrase, devil's advocate, but you don't dispute Egypt's right to exist. You dispute Israel's right to exist.
I do not. I just dispute the idea that you should have an ethno-state. And frankly, I dispute Egypt's right to be an ethno-state and Saudi Arabia's right to be an ethno-state.
You're an American. You would like states to look like the United States.
Yes. There's a reason I love my country and want my country to accept everybody.
Yep. So yeah, the ethno-state conversation is a good one too, right? And you don't want any ethno-state, including places like Saudi Arabia or Israel or anywhere. Like having an ethno-state is leading to a lot of dark things. It leads to eugenics, things like that, which isn't too far from, and I'm noticing in personality space that there's a lot of people who are interested in manicuring racial things. And that is something I would distance myself from if there are people who are wanting that, that's just low IQ or low consciousness behavior. I'll say it that way. So I think Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, he does a good job here distinguishing Judaism and Jews from the Israel and AIPAC. Those are different things. And then also the ethno-state conversation needs to be had, and understanding what an ethno-state is, and that's not really a good principle. It's not a good idea to have any ethno-state, including places like Saudi Arabia and Israel, So that's at least the American way. I'm American as well, just like Abdul here. So video 8, it ended up being controversial, and this is, I guess, someone thought that video would make them look a certain way, but they just had, streams and talks and stuff. And I think Dr. Abdul El-Sayed invited him out to go campaigning or something, or stumping, or I don't know exactly what they call it. But I typed Hasan Piker as an ENTP jumper. Now, it might not be his exact type. He might be NETI. He might be self-over tribe. I don't know. He might be the NETI consume, play, blast, sleep, blast version. I don't know, MF or FF. I'm not sure. But what I do know is this dude is info dominant. He does very long streams, and yeah, they have a good rapport, good back and forth, and they get into some very nitty gritty topics and things, and really good discussions. And you start to see Abdul's TI come out. So when you have FE first, you're going to have TI fourth, and you're going to hear some good stuff there. The FE people, if you have Savior FE, you probably are very intelligent. It's just sometimes you need to get the FE people, like everyone, on the same page before you get into the nerdy stuff. But you're definitely doing a lot of work there. I've seen it myself. A lot of Savior FE folks are brilliant, and I believe Abdul to be one of those people.
I feel like it just makes me dumber when I go on it. Like back in the day, this was my primary mode of like figuring out what was going on in the world. Journalists were breaking their stories on this goddamn platform. They were doing investigations. They were writing, people were writing thoughtful things on this platform. And now you have to scroll and refresh 1,000 times for you to reach like one readable, one legible thing that actually gives you any sort of insight into what the is happening on the planet. It is so goddamn annoying.
You know, Hasan, I'll tell you this. I was one of the first 10,000 people on Facebook. All right. So like 2003, it shows up.
Damn.
Still says Mark Zuckerberg production on it. And it used to go to colleges, right? So Michigan was the first colleges that it went to. And it's funny because I got a little brother who's about your age. And I got a little sister who's 15 years younger than me. So she's like 8 years difference from you. And it's interesting. Obviously, I'm an epidemiologist. If you like set up like a case study, you can kind of see the impact that it's had to have more of your youth on these kinds of platforms. But I'll tell you, man, like I don't have much going for me. I used to have a really, really good attention span. I could sit, I could read for like hours and hours. I could play Legos for hours and hours, whatever it was, I could do for hours and hours. And now I think I got 17 minutes. Like that's about as much as I got. And it's this stuff that's got you constantly tripping out on trying to reach for that next thing, the next buzzer, the next feed, whatever it is. And honestly, like I say this as somebody who got through all of, like I turned 18 before social media happened, right? And so I can't imagine what it's like for folks in your generation, for even younger. It's crazy.
Oh, the AI too. There's so much cognitive offloading taking place where people are just basically like delegating tasks that normally their brain would do to artificial intelligence, like, you know, LLMs. And they think that it's making them smarter, and they don't realize that it's making them dumber, because it's the difference of like I see.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, seeing it as an epidemiologist, he has all this TI under there. Like after you see the FE valuing or non-valuing of social media, it's like, hey, you know, just look at the data and look at this TI system that I have set up in my head of how these different sections of children or people, adults, are behaving differently as a result of social media. And I'm going to include all the links of the videos in the description so you can check out the rest of that if you want. But yeah, so in the next clip, so we're seeing some info dominance possibly, or at least, you know, some TI at the bottom there, but you know, it's still there and it's doing a lot of heavy lifting. He said he used to be able to focus for long periods of time, and now it's getting taken away. So it's kind of like, what is the effect of technology on these people, right? And yeah, it's basically making people do TE instead of TI, right? So he can feel that. Who's going to feel it the most? It's actually going to be the FE people who feel it the most. It's like this technology is just taking away your ability to think because it's outsourcing. You're forced into TE basically. And when you're forced into TE, you're not doing very much TI anymore. You're not doing that much deep work anymore. Cal Newport, shout out. So in this clip, we're going to see, so this is a last clip from Hasan here, at least this video. There's great info about AI here. And yeah, I think Abdul's going to have some really good stuff to say here. So let's check it out.
As a corporation based in Delaware whose CEO lives in Washington, D.C. or California, at this point, you're completely dislocated in the first place. So it's just a labor bottom line for you. And, you know, I just think that there's an opportunity we have to like try and get much more local to try and take the problem on, and then, you know, regulate the use of AI in corporate work. I mean, like the idea of a 32-hour work week it's a buttress against AI. It's basically saying, like, instead of you displacing 20% of your workforce with AI,
let them work less now that
Exactly.
you have more technological innovation. Yeah, well, that's, exactly. That's just the profit incentive.
Yeah.
People putting the interest of profit over the interest of people.
What's your sense on where this all goes?
Nowhere good.
Yeah. Do you think we're gonna like actually be able to regulate it in a real way?
No, 100% no. I don't think so. I think America is a hellish libertarian dystopia, and it's going to become worse and worse. It is nightmarish already, and it's getting only worse. Now you have a global hegemon that is actually a competitive superpower against the United States of America, and is slated to actually overtake America's overtake America in terms of like manufacturing. It already has China. So that has, I think, caused even more panic among American investors and American capital and American politicians in general. And instead of trying to redouble our efforts onto R&D and investment, fixing our infrastructure, making sure that we have the proper educational infrastructure and a better positioned labor force, we've decided to just completely accelerate in the opposite direction, in the wrong direction. I mean, the big beautiful bill obviously took away incentives for all green energy, renewable energy at the behest of fossil fuel production, because China now has a monopoly on renewables.
This is the thing about it.
There's a massive brain drain happening in reverse as well. Ironically enough, I mean, you're here, like I'm here. We are quite literally a byproduct of that brain drain, and yet now America is doing the exact opposite, where they're like, don't come here. We're fine with whoever we have. And if you come here, we're going to throw you in jail. If you come here, we're going to make your life miserable. And that is destroying the American future, like 100%. And I think these guys are too stupid to recognize that.
I think they know exactly what they're doing. I think, if you look at a Peter Thiel, right, and you look at I don't know if folks saw the clip of him on Ross Douthat's show on New York Times, like, they think that instead of having the smartest people from all over the world want to come here and build here, that they're going to be able to offload all of the actual thinking to a few corporatists based out of Silicon Valley, armed with armies of AI. And to your point, right, like, there's a choice that we have to make. We should have made it like 5-10 years ago about what kind of future we actually want in America. Like what you described of this, like this libertarian techno autocracy, that is a possible end outcome. I'm like, if you think about dislocating labor, especially middle income and high income labor, you're now talking about like this new sort of kind of serfdom that they're all envisioning. But like, we got a choice, and we got a choice to make really, really quickly. And my point to everybody who's looking at our political cycle, we get caught up in the horse race. If your candidate is not talking about AI like 25 to 35% of the time, they are not serious about governing, right? Because AI is the way in which they dislocate capital, ergo unions, ergo all of that productive potential equalizing force in American politics from the political system. And like, they see it coming. That's part and parcel of the goal. And we got a choice to make about how we stand up and regulate this, like right now. We should have done it 3 years ago, but it needs to be happening like right now.
But we're moving in the opposite direction of what we're supposed to be doing. And it's the same with.
Yeah. So that's enough of that. But basically, the clip's good and the conversation's really good if you want to check it out yourself. But the situation here is he's talking about AI pretty authoritatively, and that comes from possibly double observing and maybe info dominance. It could be, that I can't guarantee that. I'm still undecided between these two animal stacks, but we're going to get into that later. But yeah, it's the AI stuff. It's really how the elite people or the upper class people or the government, whoever you put in that bucket, the Peter Thiels of the world, they are essentially just it's not just Peter Thiel. It's like the the oligarchy, right? Because that is actually what's going on, and they're disrupting everything in that sense and automating people's jobs. And yeah, that's just the mechanism to do it, is through AI and through automation. It's something that I've been aware of since the Andrew Yang political campaign back in 2019, 20. And yeah, it's totally here. So I saw this coming, and now's really the time to be talking about it and doing something about it. People said Yang was too early, and well, at least I knew about this a long time ago. It's just a matter of doing something about it. That is the gap. But yeah. So he's possibly infodominant. He knows what's going on. That's the point, is like, not every politician understands everything, knows what's going on, or at least they're not letting on that they know, because a lot of them are backed by corporations. And that's why his first part of the slogan is getting money out of politics. Because if the corporations are buying the elections, if they're buying people, if they're throwing money at politicians, then guess what? They're not fighting for you. And so, Abdul does not take any PAC money, which is any corporate money. So that is something to look for in candidates in general. Let's say you don't like Abdul El-Sayed, but if you are looking at politics and, you're not a billionaire, and even if you are, honestly, if you want someone good, then yeah, you're going to want to see that they're not taking the corporate PAC money and stuff like this. There maybe is a situation where maybe it makes sense, but basically not really. That's not really true. Anyway, so in this next to last clip, penultimate clip, we're going to just see some good blasting from Dr. Abdul El-Sayed on a different show. And Hasan's just watching, warning, Hasan is eating, right? So whatever, because he streams all day for 8 hours. But he's going to comment a bit, and I would agree with those comments. But yeah, let's hear what Abdul has to say in a pretty good interview.
Are you adjusting your campaign in any way, and your strategy in these last few weeks of the primary?
I have a simple message. I want money out of politics, money in your pocket, Medicare for all. But the contrast couldn't be clearer. I'm somebody who's never taken a dime of corporate money to run a campaign. My opponent in this race is dripping with corporate money. All of the ads that you've seen in this race have been brought to you by a super PAC or another, mainly paid for by AIPAC. One of them, literally the goal is to send your tax dollars abroad to kill other people rather than to invest them here at home, to invest in us and our kids. If you're somebody who believes that we need to take on the oligarchs and the monopolies that force us to pay more for the stuff we got to buy, if you're somebody who believes that our money should be spent here on us and you believe you deserve guaranteed health care, then this campaign is for you. But I'll also tell you that the mood has changed, right? 8 years on, people are just angrier. Things have gotten harder. It's harder to afford your groceries, harder to believe that you could ever afford a home, harder to believe in the school that you send your kid to. And I think in this moment, people are looking for something that does not look like business as usual.
Goat status, beast mode. He's very good. He is fast, efficient, straight to the point. I mean, what else can you say, man? He's just fucking good. That's why I have consistently said Abdul El-Sayed, I think as far as his background goes, is perhaps one of the most impressive candidates in this cycle, like across the nation.
Let's talk about one of the cornerstones of your campaign, Medicare for all. How are you going to do that? And what one thing can you quickly say where it's not going to drive up costs? How will that be funded?
We're going to pay for it, but we're going to pay a lot less because we're not paying a CEO $18 million a year. We're not paying for that army of billers to figure out how to allow doctors and health insurance to crosstalk. And guess what? We're not going to pay for it in the form of $225 billion in medical debt, which is what we hold in this country right now. This will be cheaper, more durable, and without the pain or the worry about I can't see a doctor, which is too much of an issue for too many people in this country.
If you think Zara Mamdani is good because of like his messaging discipline, because of his charisma, because of the impassioned pleas that he can make and be able to like communicate as an earnest fighter for justice, Abdul has that too, straight up. And unlike Zoran, he also can put up 3 plates on the bench.
That's really why I included that clip, is because yeah, he's benching, what is it, 315 or something like that, which is pretty impressive, given that he's a little shorter. I guess I don't know who it's easier for to bench, but I imagine being taller might be good, but yeah, actually it might not be. But anyway, he can bench, and I'm working on mine. But yeah, this was a pretty good blast, right? And I'm saying info dominant. No, I can't slam dunk on that, but it is good blast. He's able to get his point across. SI, FE, boom, and you got to be able to do that. I'm trying to get better, tighter. You see, this video is already running pretty long. If I was more blast focused, the videos would be punchier, shorter, all that. but I have so much freaking consume to go through. Anyway, this last clip is going to be a message from Bernie Sanders, who endorsed Abdul for the US Senate. And so we're just going to be looking at this for a second, but this one does not have Abdul El-Sayed. But if you are an ESFJ and an INTP likes you, you might be doing something right. Let's check it out.
Here is what is surprising, shocking, and frankly disgusting. It turns out that Abdul El-Sayed is not really running against Haley Stevens. He is running against AIPAC, the right-wing super PAC that supports the extremist Netanyahu government in Israel, as well as other billionaire-funded super PACs. Unbelievably, and I want you to please hear this, AIPAC and allied billionaire-funded super PACs have already spent nearly $50 million to defeat Abdul in the Democratic Senate primary. $50 million in one state, the state of Michigan, and there is still 3 weeks left to go. And that, it turns out, is almost 15 times all of the spending in support of Abdul. My friends, what you're looking at in Michigan right now is what a corrupt, billionaire-funded campaign finance system is all about. This is what billionaires buying elections is all about. This is what the undermining of American democracy is all about.
That's really good from Bernie. Good message. And yeah, I mean, $50 million is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money for these other people, right? How hard would it be to raise $50 million from regular people? And yeah, so that's who he's running against. And you judge a person what? You judge a person by their enemies. And the enemies of Abdul are basically the enemies of humankind and the enemies of Americans, right? Because you have foreign lobbies, foreign interest groups, non-Americans that are funding his opponent. And so from a personality typology perspective, it's just good to have, you know, all your functions covered there, where you understand the NTP systems of how everything works, which is what Bernie Sanders represents. And then you also understand the SFJ, which is the culture. In Abdul's case, it's the Michigan culture, it's the American culture that he is well versed in, and he grew up with it. So that is very much the real stuff, the SF and the NT combined. So great message to end on for the clips. And now we're narrowing down the guess. So Abdul El-Sayed, we proved to hell a lot of these coins, but some of them we didn't really touch on. And I'm not really going to make too much of a case for those coins because I could be wrong. And, you know, so the first narrow down is I'm starting to see the feeler immediately. Like, this is a guy who can see the prioritization of problems very quickly. He can address the pain in the room quickly. And he's also an extrovert. He's able to jump on top of situations. He's not, you know, shy. He's never shying away. You never see him go into the background in a way. He's always jumping into things and getting more involved in that way. So that's extroverted. I see the masculine sensory, especially like the broiness of it all. Tribe motivated. I think that's a really tough one to tell between number 2 and number 4. I'm probably going to go with number 2, but that's something. And yeah, so he's a dude. So it's different. An EJ man is different from an EJ female, right? So those are things to consider, as well as the gender spectrum in general, right? But here we have, but it's still, I find the binary useful at least a little bit, you know, as long as it's not hurting anyone's feelings for the most part. But anyway, yeah, so decider, that's something that I got in terms of like, he's an EJ, he's a, and that's why it does need to be talked about, because a male EJ versus a female EJ, there's differences there. And this is just what the kind of jockey male EJ will sound like, because they have the backing of the tribe. They actually, when you actually have the backing of other people, these men are able to actually accomplish things, do things, because they're representing, the interest of more than just themselves. And so that can be very powerful in the SF, in the real world. So we got Blast, we got EJ, we got Info Dominant, possibly. I do back away from this coin in the final narrow down, because he could be energy dominant. I don't really know. So there's that. And he is an omnivert. But basically, he's an EJ, play, Blast. We can say crackhead, but basically he's able to get involved. He's able to get involved into situations, Blast, play. He's able to say certain stories. He's able to do storytelling, put on a show, organize things, and he's able to get his messages out very well and very easily, it seems. And then SF is SF popular. That's a good one to track, because it's not just NF, it's really SF. He's physically there with you in the real world. He's not off in some, la la land, thinking about visions and plans of abstract things. He does look at those, but it's more about what you can practically do in reality. And so my final guess is, or my first finalization of a guess, which ends up being the final guess, is MF, FESI, Blast, play, consume, sleep, last, number 2. So that's a standard ESFJ. He doesn't take money from APAC, unlike his opponent, which is currently Haley Stevens, who I believe to be double masculine ESTJ. So it's battle of the EJs. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's an interesting race to watch. We'll see. I'll probably double back and do a shorter video to cover things if he wins. Hopefully he wins. And yeah, another guess that I have is the consume last version of this, and maybe number 4, right? The consume last, they have that Dave Ramsey set up this way. He has his own podcast, and it's hard to tell between Blast, play, consume and Blast, play, sleep. So I wanted to show that here. And friends energy, tribe motivation, is he a generalist? Is he a specialist? I don't know about that, really. That's a tough coin for me. But I'm going to stick with that original guess that I have. Here he is with Bernie Sanders, who endorsed him. AOC also endorsed him, and a number of other people. So, including the unions, right? So he's actually standing with the workers and stuff. And this is a person, win or lose, doesn't matter. This is the kind of person you want in politics. This is the kind of person you want leading the country, leading the state, leading the city, whatever, right? Someone who actually cares, who will, care about the actual people versus corporations, right? Taking no corporate money is pretty powerful. Anyway, social type number 2, MF, FESI, Blast, play, consume, sleep, last, ESFJ standard. Yeah, we don't really get this type too often, but it's nice to see, SF and someone who's grounded in reality. I've been typing a lot of NT people, so this dude actually knows what's going on. And his NT is actually quite strong because it is the NETI consume. That's what I'm seeing, right? And those people really figure out the game of life pretty quick, or eventually. And I have this slide from before, which is you want to tell the signal in life over the noise, right? There's a lot of noisy things, a lot of things that are worth ignoring, and you want to look at the signal. So APAC is the noise. Corporate money is the noise. JD Vance, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, they're noise. Who in the world is the noise right now for you? Foreign lobbies, that's the noise. Find the signal. Vote the signal. And that's for anyone everywhere, not just United States, right? Anyway, so, and here's a little slide on healthy versus unhealthy ESFJs. You have unhealthy ESFJs like this, and you have healthy ones, even within, even though I categorized Dr. Abdul El-Sayed as a healthy ESFJ, he might have some of the unhealthy parts too, right? So we're all complex individuals, and we're all just trying to do our best here. So in 2 weeks, we're going to keep possibly, I don't know, I haven't even looked at a video, but it's possible we're going to keep the EJ thing going because this person has EJ face. And I don't know too much beyond that, but we're going to go to dark episode. And we're not letting go of this Epstein files situation. And yeah, Pam Bondi, former U.S. Attorney General. So when you get fired, you know, does that mean that people just forget about you? I don't know. I don't know if that's worth it because this person was in charge of a lot of things and covered up a lot of crimes, possibly, allegedly. I don't know. And yeah, there are a lot of survivors of the situations that were revealed with the Epstein files. And they're all kind of looking at this person. You know, you would think and hope that a woman would, you know, help defend other women. But in this case, this is not a person who does that. This is someone who looks the other way and covers up for, you know, men who are doing bad things. And that's just how it is. But you can fight against it. You can vote for people and do things and protest and whatnot. And that's good. That's just part of the things you can do as long as you're doing something. But just never forget that, you know, the Dow is over 50,000. I mean, you can check right now. I don't know. I don't actually know right now. But apparently the Dow being over 50,000 was more important than other people's pain, right? And maybe for this person, the Dow is more important than their pain. I don't know. But yeah, darkness is often a reflection of our internal state, you know, and Abdul was saying that about JD Vance. You know, our own issues do end up, you know, going out into the world. So Pam Bondi in 2 weeks, that's July 31st, possibly the next day, August 1st. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. This has been a light episode, and we're going to go back into the darkness in a couple weeks. But enjoy Abdul El-Sayed. Follow the race. It's happening soon. The Democratic primary for Michigan. And then, yeah, I have a link for one-on-one coaching if you're interested in actually using personality typology for some, you know, something good and actually getting something out of it. Because otherwise, it's a waste of time to learn about personality. It's a waste of time to learn about psychology if you're not actually doing anything with it. So anyway, I hope you have a great day and a good weekend. See ya. Yeah, hold on. The buttons.